It's time to bring on Dr. Ryan McCorkle to talk about Pop's health situation, Jeremy Sohan's thumb, and then bring in a little Spurs fan who was brave enough to get on the court with Wemby.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back week, and I hope you had a great weekend. I really do. You got some fun in. Maybe you could watch the big fight this past Friday. Got some Spurs action. The point is, you're back here at Locked On Spurs, your one and only stop for all things San Antonio Spurs. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube. Pick a platform. We are there. We also got a newsletter, the Locked On Spurs newsletter. The description below, has the link. Go click on it right now. What are we talking about today? We're bringing back Dr. Ryan McCorkle. And it's long overdue, but at the same time, it's kind of going to be kind of a sensitive topic because it is Popovich's health. They've had a mild stroke, as the Spurs announced. So we're going to get into that. What happened to him? What is a mild stroke? What are some of the ripple effects of suffering some of that? So much more. How fortunate he was to be at the Spurs facility, the Frost Bank Center, when it happened. And so a lot of the trainers were on hand to attend to him. Then get into what happened with Jeremy Sohan. He has surgery on his thumb. Dr. Ryan McCorkle is going to talk about that, the long-term prognosis. And then, as you can see in the rundown, that little kid, y'all saw the moment that went viral after the game. He went up to Wemby, tapped him on his head, just wanted an autograph. He gave him his game-worn jersey right then and there. The little Spurs fan is going to talk to us in a few minutes about that experience, if his friends are jealous, and what happened to the jersey right afterwards. Interesting how they took care of it. We'll be discussing with him in just a few minutes. But first up, we're going to bring in our guest. He is Dr. Ryan McCorkle. Welcome back, Doctor. How you doing?
Doing well, Jeff. Thanks for having me, man. Good to be back with you.
Not a problem. By the way, not only were you the last guest to be on the Nerd Wall, Locked On Spurs, this is the new look, Locked On Spurs. What do you think?
Oh, I love it. That is a different look. You're right.
Yeah, it's complete 180. But for personal Locked On Spurs history, Dr. Ryan McCorkle was the last guest to be on the Nerd Wall before it came down. But this is a green screen, Doctor. Behind it still exists. So maybe one day, the green screen might accidentally fall down, and oh darn it, gotta need time. Whoopsie there. Oh well, gotta make do. But nevertheless, he is on Instagram. Make sure to follow him on Instagram at AustinEMDoc. Do that right now. He's a great follow, showing off all his music events that he goes to. By the way, were you at the Scoot Inn in Austin recently?
I've been to the Scoot Inn many times. I don't live very far from there. But
okay.
I was yesterday at the Continental Club and then at Mohawk for Jack White.
I saw your pictures of Jack White, and it looked like the Scoot Inn. And I was like, wait a minute, I was there about a month ago. I wonder if that's the same place. Yeah. But he...
East side, Continental and Mohawk.
Yeah, exactly. He is with the emergency and backstage practice. He is a medical doctor based in Austin, the medical director for Texas football and Austin FC. Again, go to his Instagram right now, AustinEMDoc. Do that right now. Doctor, again, welcome back. Kind of a... they always say every time you're back, I'm glad to see you, but at the same time, it's always talking about bad news. A player gets hurt, somebody's out for an extended time. But this one is a little different. This time, it is Popovich. I never thought I'd be talking to you about Popovich and his health issues, but it has happened. According to the Spurs, as you all know, he did suffer a mild stroke a few weeks ago. He has been out of the sidelines and will remain away from the basketball court for an indefinite amount of time. Do not have any timetable when he'll be back. It happened at the Frost Bank Center Arena. So good news there. Their physicians were to attend to him pretty quick. But according to the Spurs, Brian Wright, that rehab has started for Popovich, and they're going to allow him to take all the time he needs. No rush to come back to the coaching sidelines. All right, Doctor, again, kind of a, tough topic. But first of all, what is a mild stroke? I mean, what is it a stroke just as bad regardless of the degree?
Oh no, there's definitely
okay.
There's actually a stroke scale by the National Institutes of Health that tells you kind of objectively how bad a stroke is on a scale based on what your deficits are afterwards. So to kind of get into it, there's two major types of stroke. There's ischemic strokes, which
Mm-hmm.
means you have a blood clot that stops blood flow to a portion of the brain, which then dies. And whatever
Mm-hmm.
function that part of the brain is in charge of for your body, that's what you lose. That's most likely the type that we're talking about here. It's very akin to a heart attack, where you have
Mm-hmm.
a small clot in one of your coronary arteries, that part of the heart muscle dies. Same idea, but occurring in the brain. There's another subset called hemorrhagic strokes, where you have areas
Mm-hmm.
of bleeding in the brain. That's a whole different animal. This is, I think, what
Mm-hmm.
we're, again, we always preface by saying we have no knowledge of what's going on with
Mm-hmm.
Coach Popovich's particular
Mm-hmm.
health issues. He has
Mm-hmm.
his HIPAA rights, and we don't have any knowledge about his scans
Yeah.
or what happened or anything like that. But we're talking in general about ischemic strokes, which is most likely what happened. So that small
Mm-hmm.
blood clot causing blood flow to stop to a portion of the brain, and that can either give you the classic symptoms where you can't move one arm, one leg, one side of your face droops, or you have the inability to speak.
Okay. What are those typical with mild strokes? Those symptoms, or that's just for any stroke?
So that would be a major stroke. So the
That would be a
the
major stroke. Okay.
NIH stroke scale is based on, are you unable to move the arm, the leg, both? Is the face involved? Is your speech involved? And there's a few other things, but obviously it's more severe if you can't move a whole side of your body and you're unable to speak anymore
Mm-hmm.
after the stroke. It can be as small as having just a little bit of fine motor weakness, where you're not as
Mm-hmm.
dexterous with one hand as the other. Some people don't end up with any deficits because in the long term, the tissue around the area that died in the stroke, that brain tissue will learn to take over the functions as long as that area is not too large. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
saying a mild stroke, you're probably talking about a very small area, very minor deficits, and in all likelihood, those healthy areas around it will be able to
Mm-hmm.
take over that function. And long term, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that they'd had a stroke.
So basically, I guess when it happened, about all we can do is just speculate. Again, we don't have any type of knowledge firsthand, or obviously respecting HIPAA rights. But what is like kind of the first symptom? Like, was it simply as, hey, I got a bad headache, or is it like, oh no, I'm about to faint? Like what are like kind of the initial waves of, yeah, you're about to have a stroke?
But I work at the largest comprehensive stroke center in Austin. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what we do on a daily basis. So most of the time, headaches are usually that hemorrhagic stroke type we're talking, where there's
Mm-hmm.
bleeding in the brain. Ischemic strokes usually aren't associated with a headache. What it is the sudden onset of weakness. I was,
Mm-hmm.
sitting at the table and the fork fell out of my hand and I couldn't move my arm. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to get up from the chair and one leg didn't work, one arm didn't
Mm-hmm.
work. Or I was sitting there talking to my family, and all of a sudden, one side of my face drooped, and I started
Mm-hmm.
drooling out of one side of my mouth, and I couldn't talk anymore. Those are the kind of the most common symptoms with a major ischemic stroke.
What brings on strokes? What causes it? Is it stress? Is it unhealthy diet? Is it just genetics? Or what causes them?
So it's a mix of
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle and genetics. So it's very much akin to heart attacks, like we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Atherosclerotic disease, plaques that build up in your arteries. Just instead of the coronary arteries, we're talking about your internal carotid arteries.
Mm-hmm.
And then little plaques break off and go to the small vessels of the brain, clogs off that portion, and causes the stroke. So that would be unhealthy diet, high lipid panels.
Mm-hmm.
If you smoke, all the same risk factors for heart disease would also be for stroke, because
Interesting.
it's the same disease
Yeah,
process.
that is interesting. Yeah, how. I mean, it was a bad situation. Obviously, the entire Spurs family is hurting right now. Brian Wright did say that it's taken a village to keeping on without their leader there. But how, I guess, good was it that it happened at the Frost Bank Center there with the trainers and everything? How good was it that he got like an immediate response to that, like immediate action was taken?
I mean, that's your best
Yeah,
case scenario. So that's the other thing we
yeah.
want to talk about with strokes is it is a time sensitive issue. This is not something like, oh, let's wait around and see if it gets better. And if it's not, we'll go see the doctor tomorrow. You have 4.5 hours, a 4.5 hour window from the last time that you were well, the last time you felt completely normal. You have 4.5 hours from that time to get in what's called a clot busting drug. So TPA, tenecteplase, they're these extreme blood thinners. They carry a lot of risks for bleeding, in the brain, bleeding in the GI system, but it is something that can break up that clot in the brain and give you the opportunity to have a full recovery. But it can only be given in that 4.5 hour window. After 4.5 hours, the risk of bleeding somewhere becomes too great, and you can't give the drug anymore.
Wow.
You have up to 24 hours from the last time you were well to have what's called a mechanical thrombectomy. That's where they pass a wire, just like they do for a heart attack, but they pass it up into your brain and actually pull the clot out.
Wow.
So you can do that up to 24 hours from the onset of your symptoms. But to give the drug, it's got to be within 4.5 hours. So the fact that he was there with doctors on site who knew, I don't know whether or not he got TPA or mechanical thrombectomy, but if he would have been a candidate because somebody was there when it happened.
Yeah. How much is age is a factor? He's well into his 70s. He's staring at 80 already. How much of a factor is that?
Sure, atherosclerotic disease age is a big risk factor. I mean, Coach Popovich is pretty healthy. He's not obese. He seems to exercise on a regular basis. But sure, anytime you're 75 years old, a heart attack or a stroke is a risk. He does drink his red wine, so that kind of decreases one of the risk factors. There's another heart rhythm, irregular heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation that puts you at risk for strokes as well. That could be something where his arteries could be fine. He could be healthy, not have coronary artery disease, his internal carotids being fine. But if you go into that heart rhythm, it causes you to form clots. So that could be a risk factor where he could be totally healthy otherwise, just have that abnormal heart rhythm, and that leads to a stroke.
We're talking with Dr. Ryan McCorkle right here on Locked On Spurs about Popovich's health. The state of his health right now after the Spurs officially announced he suffered a mild stroke. And they're going to be talking about Jeremy Sohan's injured thumb, the surgery he went into. What is that type of long-term process looking like for Jeremy? That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us, but what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. Therapy is very helpful. Learning coping skills, positive coping skills, setting boundaries, what empowers you to be the best version of yourself if it isn't just those for those experienced major traumas, those for also experience good things, just want to keep those good things going. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Go to BetterHelp right now. It'll help you become your better version of yourself. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Dr. Ryan McCorkle. He is back, everybody. The good doctor is making his house call right here on Locked On Spurs, discussing Popovich's health, the stroke that he suffered, or mild stroke, and then we'll get to Jeremy Sohan in just a few seconds. We're going to continue our chat about Popovich here. So, according to the Spurs, he's doing well. He's in rehab. Okay, so let's talk about rehab. What type of rehab do people go through when they suffer a mild stroke?
So we talked about those types of deficits. So it depends on what the deficits were, and it would be rehab to kind of help train the area of the brain around it to take over the function that was lost. So, if he had weakness in the arm, you're going through the rehab of just trying to get that motion back and getting the other parts of the brain to take over that function. If it's walking, then, working on that to where you can, a lot of people will end up limping or dragging that leg, but getting that function back so it can be ambulatory. It could be speech therapy if it had affected his speech centers. trying to get fluid speech back. All of those things can be involved, or it could be like we said, it could be as minor as, just fine motor, and you'll be doing little repetitive things with your fingers to try to get that fine dexterity back. But that's what stroke rehab is about, is getting back the function that was lost from the stroke.
Yeah. Again, I don't want you to get in trouble or anything, but, all we could do is just use what we know from the Spurs. But is this something that he can recover from fully and be an effective NBA coach if he decides to come back? Or do you think anything that may have hurt him during this incident, suffering the stroke, could maybe impair his coaching abilities?
I mean, from what the information that we've been given, it sounds like he could be one of those people who had a small stroke that was found on an MRI, had some mild symptoms, and doing the neuro rehab, and it's so tiny that the other areas around it will be able to take over the function with no difficulty. And, a month from now, you would never be able to tell that he'd had a small stroke. There's tons of patients like that out there who have very minor, small strokes that you would never know. Because all the function comes back 100%. There's other people that you've seen, I'm sure, who have a whole side of their body that doesn't work. They either drag the leg or they have to use a wheelchair. People who have that speech pattern, if it affects the Broca's area in the brain where their speech is real broken and difficult to get their words out. So that would definitely impair your ability to be an NBA coach, but it does not sound like those are deficits that he has.
Yeah. Is this something that could happen again to him? Is this something that would become more frequent? Because, he's like, you had one, okay, let the dominoes fall. Maybe another one's going to be coming. Could that happen? And what are preventative moves for him to not suffer one again? And then, of course, a PSA for everybody else, how to avoid or trying to live your best life to avoid having a stroke, mild or otherwise.
Sure. Very minor strokes like this, you usually go on a platelet inhibitor, which is either an aspirin a day, or there's a drug called clopidogrel or Plavix that helps not form those little clots that form strokes. Almost everybody who's had a stroke goes on those two drugs if they don't have that irregular heart rhythm we were talking about. If they do have that irregular heart rhythm, atrial fibrillation, they need to be on a blood thinner. So that's a real anticoagulant. That comes with a lot of risks of GI bleeding, or anytime you fall, you can have bleeding in your brain, those kind of things. But if you're going to be in that heart rhythm, you've got to be on a blood thinner or you will have another stroke. Either way, whatever the cause, he'll be on one of those drugs going forward, either the platelet inhibitors, aspirin, Plavix, or the blood thinner if it were from atrial fibrillation.
Is this something that people can avoid, again, by living a better lifestyle, or is this kind of one of those things that can happen at any time, no matter what level of health level you're at?
So it's like a heart attack, right? You do your cardiovascular exercise, you keep your cardiovascular system healthy, and it will absolutely markedly decrease your risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. Not smoking is the number one thing you can do to not have a heart attack or a stroke. The risk factors for a stroke are the same as they are for a heart attack. You want to keep those arteries clean by doing regular exercise, not smoking. Also, having a healthy diet, not being obese, because that leads to clots as well. The atrial fibrillation, there's nothing you can do about that. That is a genetic thing. It just happens, and you have to get on you can either get a cardioversion or a procedure that kind of burns the pathway of electrical conduction that's causing the problem, or you can be on a blood thinner for life. There's three options of how to manage that atrial fibrillation. That is a major cause of strokes that can be dealt with, but it's nothing that you can do lifestyle wise. That's just a genetic problem that you have.
Yeah. When I heard the news that Pop officially, with the Spurs officially announced that he had a mild stroke, it just hit me close to the chest here, because my grandfather, he has suffered two strokes as well before he passed away, and it was weird. He like shook off the first one, and I remember talking to him, when I was a kid, and like as if it didn't happen. And he was like, "I'm fine," looking at everybody like, "What are y'all talking about? It's fine." Well, you had a stroke, grandfather, and I'm fine. But then a second one came, and that's the one that really took him out. In the droopy face, I remember that he couldn't talk anymore, and he ended up going on a wheelchair. So That's why I was asking, like, man, could this happen again to Pop, where they just keep coming stronger and stronger, based on my personal experience with my grandfather. But it sounds like there are preventative measures, you said, like the aspirin, the drugs, smoking, maintaining cardiovascular health. So, yeah, it just comes down to taking care of your body, huh?
Absolutely. Getting on the right
Yeah.
medications and following the right lifestyle.
We're not done talking with Dr. Ryan McCorkle. When we get back, continue our chat with the good doctor, and then bring in our special guest, that little Spurs fan who got a chance to talk to Wemby. Hey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You want to go to FanDuel.com right now. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So much when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You just got to go to FanDuel.com right now. Speaking of FanDuel.com, look, the NBA season is also around the corner. Spurs fans, time to have some fun with your silver and black on the court. The app is very easy to get, very easy to use, user-friendly, very intuitive. Make your picks, 1, 2, 3. Bet on parlays, bet on win spreads, totals. I mean, seriously, you can have so much fun with sports this sports season with FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sports book. You just got to get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Yeah, you'll get started with that. And when you place your first $5 bet, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Another reason why you got to go to FanDuel when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com right now, America's #1 sportsbook.
This is Emilio Rivera, El Padrino for the Mayans MC. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Doctor, before we transition to talking about Jeremy Sohan, are there anything you want to let Spurs fans know that are watching right now, what they can do either for themselves or for their loved ones that are concerned about this? Any websites or how they can talk to you, or just what they can do to, live that healthy lifestyle to avoid getting these strokes?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. But also, like I said, the National Institutes of Health do the stroke scale, the NIH stroke scale. So they also have a lot of information there on the NIH website that's available, free, accurate, and reliable about ways that you can minimize your atherosclerotic risk. But that's what we've kind of already talked about. It's regular exercise. It's following a healthy diet, and not smoking. If you do those two things, you've really minimized your risk.
All right. Thank you for that information. Giving us a quick background. What are strokes? What could possibly be going on with Popovich? And sounds like, again, the Spurs are making it sound like he's on the road to recovery. Again, do not know when he'll go back. They're not rushing him at all. They're giving him all the time he needs to rest, recover, rehab, and hopefully he'll come back. But, at his age, I wonder, he's like, man, I did it all already. I did it all. I got 5 titles, Coach of the Years, All-Star coaching, Olympic gold, like, man, time to celebrate life. But we'll see. Hate for him to exit the game like that. I would love to come back, see him come back, even if it's just to finish out the season and then take it from there, whatever decision he makes moving forward. Doctor, before I let you go again, we're talking about Jeremy Sohan real quickly. He went under surgery to repair a left thumb injury. I think it was a fracture. He is in it looks like a small cast, like around his thumb. Looks like something like just covering his whole entire thumb thing. What exactly happened to Jeremy Sohan, and why was surgery needed for a broken thumb, a bone in the thumb?
So he had broken the proximal phalanx of his thumb. That's the bone nearest your palm of the thumb. Usually it meant that the fracture was displaced, or they just wanted to be able to get him back playing as soon as possible and not risk a refracture. So he had some type of what they call ORIF, open reduction internal fixation. So that means you open it up and you either put a wire or plate, pins, and screws in. Most likely it's something called a K-wire. That's the most common thing that they put in there, just to align the bone and put the fracture fragments back together. It's usually somewhere between 3 and 10 week process for healing. 3 is super aggressive. 6 is probably the most common, and I think usually for NBA players they'll probably give them the full 10 before coming back. And that splint that you talked about is called a thumb spica splint, where it immobilizes the thumb and the wrist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seemed to be a pretty quick turnaround from him. because he shared on social media almost, it felt like as soon as the surgery was over, he had a picture of him going like thumbs up and saying bleep the Rockets because they were going to face the Rockets. So it seemed like it may have been kind of in and out, I'm assuming it's a pretty quick surgery for him, for that type of surgery. Yeah, real quick, yeah. And he seemed to be fine. He's on the bench right now, jumping in up and down and everything. Hopefully he'll be back ASAP because the Spurs desperately need him and that defense, but they're doing well without him, but they could do a lot better with him. But yeah, knowing the Spurs with their history of keeping players healthy, doctor, you could be on that staff and say, okay, I recommend 6 weeks. They'll say, okay, we're going to tack on an extra 2, something like that. 8 weeks it is, but yeah, again, just couldn't come at a worse time for him too. Man, was he playing great, doctor? Seriously, right before that injury, my good double-figure scoring, defense, everything, doctor. Your thoughts on Sohan?
I wanted to see him get back on the court as soon as possible, but we've talked about this many times early in the season, in a season that's, we're not super competitive. We're getting better, but not super competitive. I think you're right. You want to take a more conservative approach of letting him fully recover, get the full range of motion back, and not risk coming back, having somebody hack down on that same area and refracture.
For sure.
And then we're talking about a much longer setback.
Yeah, absolutely. He is Dr. Ryan McCorkle. Follow him on Instagram at AustinEMDoc, and go check out his. I feel like I'm watching you like a roadie. So it looks like you're like a roadie. You're like at every concert imaginable. I mean, he's at REM concert. He's at Jack White concert. He's hanging out with fill in the blank group. And my goodness, you love music, doctor, don't you?
I do. Music is a lot of joy to my life. Always has. But I live in the right city for it. And
you do.
It's changed a lot over the years, but this Jack White made it feel like old school Austin again, where he just 7:30 in the morning. I'm going to play the Continental Club for 180 people. Just come on down, line up, and the first 180 get in, and we're gonna tear it up. And it was
nice.
It felt like it was 1990 in Austin again.
You see, that's why you got to go follow him on Instagram at AustinEMDoc. He is the medical director for Texas football and for Austin FC. Must be a pretty cool gig there. And also kudos to him. He helped save young UT student's life there. That was very nice of you, doctor, what you did. You just sprung into action. And you can see that story on his Instagram right there. I see him, the kid right now. Yeah. Good job, doctor. Bravo, man. Bravo. Good job on that.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
It
was good to have the opportunity to help him.
Yeah, you said the family came out to thank you as well, right?
Yeah, they asked us to come to the hospital before he got released. And usually, with HIPAA and things, we can't talk about this, but they, said we'd be happy for you to talk about it and gave us all the releases. And they had us come to the hospital to meet him. He had questions because he obviously doesn't remember any of that. And, we got to kind of tell him about it, and he ended up getting discharged from the hospital last Friday, went home, and is doing great.
And make sure to follow him on Instagram at AustinEMDoc. He'll be back soon. Talk all things Spurs, NBA on the medical side of things. But coming up next, we have, that little kid that went viral after his Spurs win. Y'all remember that? He just brazenly walked on the court as soon as the buzzer was over and just tapped on Wemby's hip, wanting an autograph. He's going to come on next to talk to us about that experience he had, what happened to that game-worn jersey. You'll be surprised what he did with it immediately afterwards and how the Spurs helped him preserve it, hint. And, he'll show you off that. And, by the way, that wasn't the only Spur Hall of Famer he got to meet that day. Yeah, there was a couple of others that met him as well. So that's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. And we're now joined by perhaps the luckiest Spurs fan in San Antonio. He is River Castillo. So you're probably asking, well, who's River Castillo? Well, I'm pretty sure you saw the viral moment a few days ago where River himself got on the court at the Frost Bank Center, tapped Wemby, and was always just seeking an autograph. Wemby just decided to go one up and give him literally the jersey off his back. Hi, River. Welcome to Locked On Spurs.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Are all your friends jealous of you right now because that Wemby jersey you got behind you?
Yes.
Yeah, you are, huh? All right, so tell us what happened. We saw you walk on the court. Nobody stopped you. Were you nervous? Were you scared?
I didn't even think about it. I just went on the court.
And why did you want to run on the court?
So I can get Wemby's autograph.
Now, what did you want him to autograph?
My shirt.
Mm. And were you shocked to see how tall he was up and close and personal?
His hip's like right here.
Yeah. So was your neck hurting because you're looking straight up?
I was like,
Well, you just wanted to get an autograph. That's all you wanted. But ultimately, when you started to see him take off his jersey, what were you thinking?
that he was gonna give me his jersey.
Did you get more excited?
Mm-hmm.
And when he gave you that jersey, did you wash it?
Nope.
You
Because
did not.
it has his DNA on it.
He has his DNA on it, exactly. So after you got the jersey, you just ran off the court.
Mm.
What was your family telling you when you went back to them?
They kept on telling me sell it, and I was like, nope, not for sale.
You're not gonna sell it?
I'm gonna keep it for my whole life. It's a good
You're gonna keep it for
memory.
your... Wow. Well, can we take a look at the jersey? Is there any way Mom can help you? I know she's behind you. Carry that jersey closer to the camera. So everybody, this is the jersey that River got literally off the back of Victor Wembanyama. There it is. River, how quick did you frame that?
Next day.
The next day.
All right, there's Mom. Mom, y'all framed that fast, didn't y'all?
Yeah, I figured it's probably the safest bet for him.
Yeah, exactly. Now, where are you gonna hang it, River?
In my room.
In your room? Now, have your friends came over to check it out, to see it?
No, I just showed them. I just called them and showed them on camera.
Oh, yeah? Are you gonna let anybody touch it?
Nope.
Not even your mom?
I have special bodyguards in there.
You're gonna have special bodyguards. Well, that was just an awesome moment. I'm pretty sure you're gonna remember that moment forever. As you get older and when you're in high school and college, you're gonna have that with you. But
When he retires, I'm gonna sell it.
so you're gonna wait till he retires, huh? Oh, so tell me, you didn't get the autograph because you really wanted the autograph, but you put it in a frame. What if he wants to autograph that jersey for you?
I'll take it to him.
You'll take it to him. Well, hopefully he's looking at this, and maybe he'll see you again or try to figure out how to get that autograph on that jersey.
Please.
Now, go ahead.
Please.
You want him to autograph that for you. What if he draws a little alien on it?
I'll still take it.
You'll still take it? Okay, now, that jersey wasn't the only cool thing that happened to you that night. Little Bird told me that Manu Ginobili and David Robinson autographed things for you too.
Mm-hmm.
What did they autograph?
My hat.
Do you have the hat with you?
Yes.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Bring it out. All right, there it is. Okay, bring that hat real close to the camera. Okay, we can see it. Look at that. That is awesome. So in one night, River, you got jerseys you got a jersey from Wemby, and you got an autographed cap by David Robinson and Manu Ginobili. Now you're gonna sell everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
Nope.
sell it all now?
Nope. Only the jersey. When he retires, I'll sell the jersey, but not the hat.
Okay. Well, what about the hat though? What if somebody wants to buy the hat?
I'm not giving it to them.
Oh my goodness! All right. So if
The
you have
legend.
yeah, you got two legends there. Do you want to tell Wemby something about what he did for you? Go ahead. It's your floor.
Thank you, Wemby. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Was he
Best day of my
surprised?
life. That was my best day of my life.
That was the best day of your life, huh? Did he tell you anything, or he just took off the jersey and that was it?
No, but he tried to tell me something, but it was too loud in there.
Oh yeah. So you want to thank Wemby, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, here you go. Thank you, Wemby from River. River, I'm pretty sure you got a lot of friends that are jealous, right? I know they are. I know you said no, but they got to be jealous, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, hopefully you and your mom can protect that thing forever and don't let it get out of there and everything. Do you want to say anything special to Spurs fans in general?
Nah, I'm good.
You're good. Okay, yeah. You don't have to say much because you got the ultimate prize that night, Wemby's jersey. Oh, by the way, once you got it off him, what did y'all do with it? Y'all put it in a bag, or y'all just carefully carried it? What happened to it?
They gave me a towel too, so I put it in the towel. So my mom was like, "This thing is sweaty."
Well, yeah, he just finished playing basketball.
So they gave us a towel, and I put it in the towel. And once I got home, I told my mom to frame it.
Wow, y'all framed it fast, huh? Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure all of San Antonio saw you do that thing and get on that court and get that jersey. And I think everybody said, that's cool. You know, grown men, friends of mine, said that they're going to fake like they're little boys now and get on the court and try to get women to do the same thing.
I don't know about that, but the security guard's going to be watching extra closer.
Yeah, I bet. Well, good thing you got in there before they caught you. and Wemby gave you that jersey. Hey, River, thank you for stopping by for a little while and talk to us about that moment with you. And you want to tell Wemby one more thing before we let you go?
Yes. Wemby, you're the GOAT.
There you have it. All right. Thank you, River Castillo. And that'll do it right here on Locked On Spurs. I want to thank our previous guest, Dr. Ryan McCorkle, for coming on and talking about what's going on with Popovich's health and Jeremy Sohan. And, of course, River Castillo for taking time out of his busy school schedule to talk to us about the Wemby jersey he got on that special night. So for all of us right here, we're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.